I saw this in the window of a board game store recently and thought the box art looked pretty cool. I also thought it's something that I could recreate as a silhouette sculpture with some 3D printing and filament LEDs. And I'm going to be giving away the files I create in this video, so stick around to the end and I'll tell you where to get them. As you can see from this mockup in Photopea, it's going to have 3 layers. A blank background, the Death Star window in the middle, and then Darth Vader up front. Vader's lightsaber will of course be an LED filament, and the gradient will come from an LED strip. My first task was to find an appropriate picture of Darth Vader to turn into a silhouette, and it's actually quite alarming how much of Google image search is AI images these days. After converting the WebP image to a PNG, I used this funky tool to remove the background, and then I put it into Photopea to mock up the piece. We can actually use this image to create the 3D assets in FreeCAD, but it just needs a little bit of processing first. First we need to fill it with a solid color. I choose black, but it can be anything. I then export as a PNG and convert that to an SVG. I tried exporting directly from Photopea as an SVG, but that file didn't work in the next steps. Finally, in the draft area of FreeCAD, you can import the SVG outline and convert it to a 3D object ready for 3D printing. I'm also not worrying too much about its overall dimensions here, as I can scale it as needed in the Slicer software. Next, I found a game asset image of the Death Star observation windows, and set it as the background in FreeCAD. I could have repeated the same SVG import process, but I wanted a bit more control for this one. Plus, this sort of work can be very meditative. And of course, this all needs a base, and I add a channel in the middle to run the LED wires through. You might have noticed that I didn't print anything to go behind the window, and that's because I'm going to save some time by using a plain piece of acrylic later. The printed pieces are exactly as I envisioned, and look even better painted. For this, I just sprayed a single thick coat of paint. Sorry, Duncan. I'll leave it up to your imagination what this straw is going to be used for. After cutting a length of LED strip and soldering on some wires, I hot glue it to the back of the window. The LED strip comes with its own sticky backing, but it didn't adhere very well to the PLA. Plus, the hot glue is convenient to route the wires with. I quickly discovered though that the window and backing were too close for the LED strip to give the effect I needed, so I decided to redesign the base to add more space. I also played around with sealing the top of the windows and backing together to reduce light leaks, but you'll see in the end that I revert this change. While the new base is printing, I move onto the lightsaber, which I initially tried to make with these 2 red LED filaments. After going through an absolutely horrendous process of soldering them together, the damn thing split in half. But, as St. Robert says,
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
That's because, in my testing with the straw before it broke, the red light of the lightsaber had a big gap where the two LEDs met, and it really didn't look all that great. Luckily, I have these longer LED filaments that are also a bit bendy, which I'm hoping means they're going to be a tad more durable. It also doesn't light up red, but we can fix that with some paint later. So after a bit more soldering and drilling out Vader's hand, Vader finally has his saber. A bit more hot glue helps to route his wires too. And I start to put everything together on the new base. There's some finishing touches to do, but everything's now in place. I also didn't want Vader to be lonely, so I made up a silhouette of his son, using the image from Return of the Jedi. The process is the same as before, except that the Luke silhouette has 2 loops in it. I couldn't figure out an elegant way to flag the gap between his arms and body as negative space, so I had to do something a little jank and manually trace out the shape and set it as a hole. The technique works as it's a fairly simple shape, but if you know the proper way to achieve this in FreeCAD, please let me know in the comments. And let's all admire this weird piece of Luke's butt sticking out here. For the lightsabers, I cut 2 white straws to length, and with an angled cut at their base to help with positioning. To paint the straws, I used some acrylic inks, which are really pigment dense while retaining some opacity. I didn't have any green ink in my set, so I used a mix of blue and yellow to get what I needed. Finally, I paint the base black, and I spray a light grey on the background, and we're ready for the reveal. If you'd like to download these files and print them for yourself, check out the link in the description to Gumroad, and you'll find them all there for free. As usual, thanks for watching, and let me know which universes or characters you think this technique would be great for. See you next time!